This video, I'm going to be comparing the Night of the Living Dead franchise to the Peanuts franchise based on the Charlie Brown characters, because in part one of this series, I compared Night of the Living Dead to the YRF spy universe from India, Night of the Living Dead 1. I compared Charlie Brown to Alvin and the Chipmunks, Charlie Brown 1. So now I'm going to compare these two franchises. We look at highest score for each one of them. In the case of Charlie Brown, a movie, A Boy Called Charlie Brown, that came out back in 1980, I think, has a 95%. When you look at the Night of the Living Dead franchise, the first movie from 1968 called Night of the Living Dead, that's in black and white, also has a 95%, so we have a tie here. Then we look at lowest score in the case of Night of the Living Dead, this direct-to-video movie from 2008, which is actually the only one of these films that I've not seen, has a 13%. When you look at the Peanuts franchise, this movie called Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, only has a 50%. So Night of the Living Dead, actually, Peanuts wins here. And then you look at average score with Peanuts, average of 81, with Night of the Living Dead, average of 67, meaning Peanuts wins here. And then you look at gap between lowest and highest score, and well, pretty big gap in the case of Night of the Living Dead, gap of 82%, with Peanuts, smaller gap of 45%. So Peanuts wins again. It's won 3 of the rounds so far, so it will be winning no matter what. Now, when it comes to my personal opinion, I actually watched all the Night of the Living Dead movies except the direct-to-video 2008 film for the first time just within the past 2 weeks, and I really enjoyed a lot of them. I appreciate how George A. Romero wasn't interested in just telling the same story over and over again. He wanted to tell different stories. Sure, of course, they all have zombies in them, but they're not the same as each other. I mean, with Night of the Living Dead, for example, the original film, it's mostly just set in a house. So it's a pretty small scale movie, which is why if you're used to modern day films that are bigger, that have more action in them, you go back and watch 1968 black and white Night of the Living Dead without having seen it before, it can take some time to adjust to the slower pace, the smaller scale of it. Dawn of the Dead is a bit bigger because most of the movie is actually set in a mall that's inherently a more expansive location. And then you have Land of the Dead, that's about these people in an underground mine that are trying to not get eaten. They have a way to keep the zombies in check. There's the military people, then a scientist that really is fascinated by the zombies in a way that the other people are not. Then Diary of the Dead plays out more like a found footage film because it's about this group of younger people that have a video camera. They're just going out, traveling, documenting everything they see. So it's more handheld camera footage. And then you have Survival of the Dead, that is about this town, this community that is being led by this rich CEO kind of guy who is very cold-hearted, doesn't care about the people that he is responsible for. It's all about money for him. Then you have zombies that end up learning a bit, and thus they're able to overrun the defenses. And you also have the people that have better character, that are trying to survive and not get eaten by the zombies. And then Day of the Dead is more like a Western. It's about this group of people that go to an island where you have two different families that are feuding with each other and have been for a while. Then we see how that plays out. So these movies all don't feel exactly the same. The genre isn't exactly the same. Obviously, in big picture level, they're all horror, but there are differences between them. Then you have the 1990 Night of the Living Dead. This is a direct remake of the 1968 film. I thought it was good, but not great. It certainly feels similar to the 1968 film, which means it's not doing that much different, so I don't think it's fantastic. but a solid, competent movie. Then you have Dawn of the Dead from 2004, which is actually the first movie that Zack Snyder did. And watching this one, I go, man, Snyder has done some good movies. He did 300, Watchmen, and Dawn of the Dead. Unfortunately, I think recently he made some very bad decisions. I think Rebel Moon was just a big miscalculation on the part of both Netflix and Zack Snyder. Thus, unfortunately, Snyder has hurt himself. He's managed to both push further away the people that already weren't big on Zack Snyder and make the people that are fans of him more skeptical. So I really think Snyder needs to go back to telling simpler stories, adapting already existing source material, or working with a script written by someone else. Because as many people have talked about before, while Zack Snyder is a very good visual director, he's not a strong writer, and he never has been. When you look at his filmography, it's the ones where he was adapting someone else's story, working with pre-existing source material, or working with someone else who did the script. Those are the films that people like more. The ones where Zack Snyder has story credit are generally not the ones people like as much. And then you have the cheap direct-to-video movie. It was like, yeah, I don't want to watch this one. I've seen all the ones I'm interested in. Now, when it comes to Peanuts, I actually saw this Charlie Brown exhibit with my dad at the Minnesota History Center. That was a really good time. We both very much are glad that we got to see that. I've seen the Peanuts movie from Blue Sky Studios, but not the other films. People know the Peanuts characters. They know Charlie Brown. These characters are iconic, but I would personally choose Night of the Living Dead, though Peanuts is going to win. That'll wrap things up for this one. Bye, everyone.